The new global context, the world at crossroads, confidence-building measures are essential. Overview of the World Economic Forum in Davos. How can the world counter global extremism? Ministers of 24 countries discussed measures to combat the Islamic State in London, while Obama asked the Congress to authorize the use of military force. A miraculous rescue plane crash survivor managed to call the emergency services. Visit of the European Parliament delegation to Astana. The relationships between Kazakhstan and Europe will expand. Will Greece exit the European Union? The country is on the eve of parliamentary elections, which can be fateful for the EU.
Good evening, I'm Rahim Shakbayev, and this is Kazakhstan Weekly, where we summarize the major local and international news of the past week. Our tonight's guest is a known public figure, Adil Akhmetov. Mr. Akhmetov, I'm glad to see you.
Good evening.
The World Economic Forum, titled The New Global Context, was held in Davos, Switzerland. The four-day event finished today. During the meetings, the organizers tried to formulate and hold discussions on major social, geopolitical and economic challenges of modern times.
The issues of the environment and the lack of resources, the collapse of oil prices, the slowdown in the global economy, employment, gender equality, long-term investments and the future of the internet were the main topics on the agenda at the forum. The founder and chairman of the forum, Klaus Schwab, said that the 45th annual meeting is extremely important given the recent political and economic developments. The forum was attended by 40 heads of state and more than 1,500 businessmen, politicians and experts. Prime Minister Karim Masimov represented Kazakhstan and held several meetings with heads of states, international organizations and major companies. During the meetings, key global financiers and politicians disagreed in the assessment of the forthcoming decision of the European Central Bank, ECB, to purchase sovereign debt. Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi called for changing the vector of the ECB policy. He reiterated his call to move from austerity measures to the policy that stimulates economic growth. Experts have also paid attention to the issue of falling oil prices. According to the head of Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, Abdallah Salem El Badri, the oil price could drop below $40 a barrel. He also added that the oil price per barrel could exceed $100 in case of the absence of significant investments in oil production over the next 5 years. One way to solve the problem was proposed by the CEO of Italian corporate group Eni, Claudio Descalzi. He proposed to create a world central bank for oil, by analogy with the central banks of some states. He believes that it would increase the predictability and stability of global markets. The last day was devoted to the fight against extremism. The corresponding change in the program was made after the terrorist attacks in Paris. Taking the floor, the Swiss President Simonetta Sommaruga recalled the tragic events that shook France from January 7-9. She thanked the French President François Hollande for his strong response to what happened in the country. Sommaruga warned about the danger of growing support for radical parties in the Western countries. According to her, the rising popularity of these parties contributes to an increase in unemployment and declining living standards.
We do not just want to define the issues. We want, with the help of all your collective brains, we want to help to create solutions. We are here not to pursue just our own interests. We are here really as a community of purpose to improve the state of the world. So engage the heart. We are here to be passionate and to show our compassion. Sharing and caring should be the motto of this meeting.
So, Mr. Akhmetov, what do you think were the main results of the last forum in Davos?
Yes, it was the 45th World Economic Forum held in Davos. On the one hand, we should say that if we look through the mass media of the world, different opinions we read. First of all, some mass media qualify Davos meeting as the meeting of rich people. That's also true. But telling the truth, this time more than 40 heads of states participated in the forum, and 1,500 business people also participated, politicians and experts. And the major issues discussed at the forum touch the following issues, I would say. First of all, environmental issue, and then the collapse of oil price, and the slowdown of world economy, and very many other issues, including unemployment and gender equality, also long-term investments, and also future of internet, and very many other issues. And the main fact we should underline that here no decisions are made, but people come to Davos to exchange views, to find solutions to their own problems. And from this point of view, of course, a World Forum held in Davos is of paramount importance. And Kazakhstan was represented by our Prime Minister Karim Masimov, who met a lot of people, including, the chief executive officers of large transnational companies. And Kazakhstan is expecting to get to be accepted to the World Trade Organization, and this matter was also on the agenda of our Prime Minister, and of course to attract investment. And nowadays every country is keenly interested to attract investment, and Kazakhstan is not exclusion. And from this point of view, Davos Forum was very, very successful, I would say. But on the other hand, looking through the mass media of the world, I come across a lot of interesting facts. This year, for example, there was a deficit of hotels because a number of hotels were under reconstruction, and airports were not able to, for example, to find rooms for the business jet planes. The number of jet planes exceeded, and it was very difficult for the journalists to come to reach in time to Davos, because there was no room in the hotels, and they lived too far from the city, and it took a lot of time, and the price was very high. You see, a lot of interesting facts I have come across, but in spite of the fact that all these things, if we neglect all these minor issues, the forum has succeeded, I think. It was a success.
And
it brought a lot of revenues to the economy of Switzerland, and not only to Switzerland, but namely to Davos.
And what discussions did you find especially interesting for you?
And I would say Erdogan's speech was very interesting, and a lot of other presidents participated. And on the other hand, we should underline that this forum has coincided with the difficult economic situation in the world. And global economic situation is very, very concerning, and also political situation is also very difficult. If we take into consideration the situation in Ukraine and sanctions, for example, against Russia, and Russia's sanction to Europe, all these issues are very, very complicated. And all these issues were discussed, and they tried to find solutions. Whether they found or not, but at least they discussed. The situation is very difficult, of course. But Davos gained a lot. A lot of revenues have come to Switzerland.
The meeting of the Global Coalition to counter the Islamic State was held in the British capital. Foreign ministers of 21 countries discussed measures to combat extremist organizations. The meeting was held behind closed doors, but its agenda was no secret. Three aspects were discussed: suppression of financial sources of the IS units, humanitarian aid to people affected by terrorism, and finally, military operations against the IS militants.
Some shocking reports of the Islamic State militants' action appeared this week in the world media. Another hostage taken and shooting teens for watching a soccer game, Kouachi brothers who attacked the editorial office of the French satirical magazine, and Amédi Koulibaly who took hostages in a supermarket of the French capital and also has been associated with the Islamic extremists. The Islamic State extremist organization took the responsibility for the Charlie Hebdo attack. Al-Qaeda also confirmed its involvement in the incident. As a result of the fighting in Iraq and Syria, several thousands of civilians were killed, hundreds of thousands became refugees, and thousands more are being held as IS hostages. At the same time, both representatives of the special services and the leaders of European countries admit that the risk of infiltration of terrorists in Europe is rampant. Recently, opinions that there is no single effective counteroffensive against the Islamic State today prevail. Government forces of Syria and Iraq, Iraqi and Syrian Kurds, and the international coalition led by the US, which only made airstrikes, all fighting against the group. The airstrikes of the coalition were praised by Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi at the meeting in London, but at the same time he noted that his country needs more help in training and equipping of ground forces. He confirmed the official position of Iraq that his country does not want a foreign military presence but needs support and logistics. However, recently it was discovered that the US is already considering the possibility to expand the format of the military struggle against the IS, although 6 months ago the Pentagon stated that it is not planning to expand its military campaign and it will be confined to airstrikes. On Tuesday, speaking to the members of Congress, Barack Obama said the United States reserves the right to act against terrorists unilaterally and urged lawmakers to authorize the use of military force against the IS group.
So, Mr. Akhmetov, in your opinion, how realistic and how timely is the beginning of the ground military operations against IS?
I would say it's a very complicated issue. Up till now, the United States were confined to airstrikes only. But President Obama addressed the Congress to get the Congress's permission to, for example, deploy ground troops, military forces in Iraq and elsewhere. I think if this comes true, the war will be widened. And let's look at this situation from different angles. For example, IS, for example, is very active in Syria, in Iraq, and different forces are fighting, including the United States of America and Syria's and Kurds are very active. But now, if, for example, the United States decides to deploy ground troops, the war will be widened and casualties will grow very much. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, for example, in Libya, in Iraq, there is chaos and the war is going on. And Syria is on the other hand. I think it will not be an easy decision, and the results will be very tragic, because airstrikes, for example, killed not only the ISIS but also peaceful citizens. You see, and if ground troops will come from the United States, the war, of course, will increase the number of the casualties. I mean, the people, and a lot of people are already displaced from Syria, and if the war will grow, a lot of people will have to leave their places of living. That's why the results will be very, very tragic, I would say. But it is difficult to say. It's too early that this coalition will eliminate ISIS. Looking through the mass media, we find out that ISIS is not weakening, it's growing.
Absolutely.
And a lot of citizens of European countries are participating in the war. And that means it is a threat not only to the Middle East, the threat will grow and grow, and they will come back to Europe. For example, after the explosion, after the tragic situation in France, for example, some events have happened in Germany, in Belgium, and a lot of arrests were carried out, you know. And the number of these kind of terrorist attacks will grow. That's why feedback is absolutely negative, negative. That's why the whole world is trying to eliminate the ISIS, but it will not be an easy task.
According to the Committee for Emergency Situations of the Kazakh Ministry of Internal Affairs, an An-2 plane crashed in the Jambul region on January 20. The aircraft that belonged to the company Olymp Air was hit along the Balkhash-Atarkul mine road. 7 people were on board, 3 crew members and 4 employees of the country's largest metallurgical corporation, Kazakhmys. 1 passenger has miraculously survived and called the emergency services.
The plane crashed on January 20 at 3:40 p.m. local time in the area of the Shatarkul mine. Search and rescue operations, which lasted 2 hours, were immediately organized. At 5 p.m., the debris were found 50 kilometers away from the town of Shu. Rescuers found the bodies of 6 people and 1 survivor at the site. The 29-year-old Asem Shahmetova is the chief geologist of the Balkhash enterprise. She called the rescue team after the plane crash. Rescuers traced the phone line and located the crash site. Shahmetova was immediately taken to the hospital in Shu, and the next day, with the help of air ambulance, she was delivered to one of the capital's hospitals. Shahmetova has suffered multiple fractures of the femur and tibia and a large blood loss. According to the preliminary version of the investigation, the plane collided with the ground during landing due to the heavy fog. A government commission has been created for a full investigation of the incident. Also, a special commission will take over the organization of the funeral of the victims, and their families will be paid compensation. Administration of the Karaganda region also promises to provide financial assistance. According to the Committee of Civil Aviation, the aircraft was made in 1973. Last summer, the plane passed certified examination and was admitted to flights until June 10, 2015. The specialists promise to publish the reasons of the tragic crash soon. The main transport prosecutor's office has already begun pre-trial investigation under violation of the rules of operation of the aircraft, resulting in the death of 2 or more persons. Currently, the case is under investigation. Forensic examinations have been appointed, and technical documents are being seized in the Olymp Air company. The investigation group is checking several possible causes of the accident, including a faulty technical condition of the aircraft and the human factor. We will not leave our fellow countrymen in trouble. 5 out of the 6 dead lived in Karaganda. 1 of them was from Zhezkazgan. We have created a commission. The tasks were given to the appropriate state agencies.
So, Mr. Akhmetov, is not the first serious incident involving small aircraft, but we understand that Kazakhstan needs such small aircraft. And in your opinion, what is the current situation in this industry?
If you look through the mass media, you'll find a lot of crashes of An-2 because these planes are very old. They were created more than 40 years before. Very old technology. As for the companies, these companies can afford, for example, to buy new planes, new technologies, like, for example, Eurocopter, helicopter, or other, for example, planes, modern planes, more advanced planes. That's why I'm very, very cautious to say, but I should say that these companies should not let these kind of planes fly, because it brings to tragedy. out of the crew, all the three crew members were killed, and fortunately one lady survived, you see. And if you look through the history of this plane throughout Russia and Kazakhstan, these planes crash every month. Mm-hmm. That's why Kazakhstan should eliminate these kind of planes. Should buy, I don't mean that the Kazakhstan state, but these companies, metallurgic companies or oil companies, because they often fly to the mines and they carry their specialists, and these kind of tragedies often happen, not only in Russia but in Kazakhstan. The only solution is to eliminate these cars, to stop, to ban, to fly, and to buy new planes or new helicopters. They exist in the world. And those companies are rich enough and they can afford to buy those new planes. This is the only remedy to stop these kind of tragic events.
Prospects of relations between Kazakhstan and Europe were discussed on Tuesday in Astana. Delegation of the European Parliament on cooperation with Central Asian countries has arrived in Astana. Head of the delegation, Iveta Grigule, held several meetings during which the sides discussed ways to strengthen the Kazakh-European ties, trade and economic cooperation between Kazakhstan and the European Union, investment opportunities, as well as the use of transit and transport potential of Kazakhstan. Watch the next story to learn more about the recent visit of European politicians to Astana.
Member of the European Parliament Iveta Grigule praised Kazakhstan's model of social and economic processes in the country during the meeting with the chairman and Majlis member Kabibullah Jakupov. She believes that much emphasis in Kazakhstan is made on improving the welfare of the individual person and society as a whole. During another scheduled meeting with the Foreign Minister of Kazakhstan, Yerlan Idrisov, Iveta Grigule discussed the prospects of relations between Kazakhstan and the EU, and, in particular, Latvia, given the initiation of a new agreement to expand the partnership and cooperation. Talks on the agreement were carried out for 3 years and completed during the visit of President Nursultan Nazarbayev in Brussels in October last year. The sides have pointed out the conclusion of sectorial agreements in the field of science and technology, as well as questions of visa facilitation for Kazakhstan among priority topics. Grigule also met with the chairman of the Commission on Human Rights under the president of Kazakhstan, Qanish Sultanov, in order to discuss the human rights situation in Kazakhstan. Sultanov told the guests about the tasks concerning social modernization of Kazakhstan society, as well as the new Human Rights Commission's projects. The two sides expressed the need to further deepen bilateral cooperation in the field of human rights. Within the framework of the official visit, the head of European Parliament's delegation on cooperation with Central Asian countries held a meeting with Commissioner for Human Rights in Kazakhstan, Askar Shakirov. At the meeting, politicians discussed cooperation between Kazakh Ombudsman's office and European human rights institutions. Summarizing the visit, Grigule noted that Kazakhstan is turning from the state which is studying the democratization and human rights into a country which can serve as an example. Presidency of the European Union Council was handed over to my country, Latvia, on January the 1st. One of the priorities of the Latvian presidency of the EU lies in more communication and cooperation with the countries of Central Asia, in particular with your country, and I will do all that is possible in the European Parliament. I would talk about your country, the way you go purposefully towards the goal, somewhere faster, somewhere better, but most important thing is the trend is very good.
So, Mr. Akhmetov, you are the direct witness and participant of the formation of Kazakhstan's relations with the European Parliament. Please tell us, how did it happen?
Interparliamentary relations between Kazakhstan and the European Union are growing from year to year, and the relations are very firm. On the other hand, the European Union is one of the biggest partners of Kazakhstan, trade partners, I would say. And the trade turnover between European Union and Kazakhstan is also growing from year to year. On the other hand, we should underline that 70% of the energy of Kazakhstan goes to European countries. And from this point of view, the visit of the parliamentarian, I mean Iveta Grigule, the head of the delegation of the European Parliament to Kazakhstan, was very successful. And me, for example, as a member of the Human Rights Commission under the President, participated in one of the meetings. And Iveta Grigula has pointed out that she's very satisfied, not she, but the European Parliament is very satisfied with Kazakhstan, how Kazakhstan, for example, is developing itself and its economy and the well-being of the people. And she even underlined that Kazakhstan, from being a country which has been learning, studying democracy and the human rights area, now Kazakhstan has become a model example for other countries. I think this is a very nice evaluation. And on the other hand, as a former member of the parliament, I often participated European countries and also Europarlament. And every time, for example, delegations from Europarlament and from OSCE always criticize Kazakhstan, for example, in democracy area and human rights area. Now, this criticism has come to an end. And Kazakhstan is a model country now, according to the opinion of this lady. That's why we should be proud of our success in these areas, in human rights area, in democracy, in multi-ethnic areas, for example, inter-ethnic areas. We have succeeded a lot. That's why I share the opinion of this delegation's head that Kazakhstan is doing very well.
Let's talk about the simplifications of the visa regime for Kazakh citizens, because it was one of the points in the agenda of the meeting. So what kind of arrangement are we talking about?
Yes, during her meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, this issue was discussed, I think. And on the other hand, again, we should underline that Kazakhstan now, for example, allowed 10 countries, most developed European countries, not only European countries, but other countries, free visa, for example, regime. And if Kazakhstan does this kind of action, European countries should also react reciprocally. That is, visa regime should be weakened. And for Kazakhstan citizens, it should be also a free visa regime taken, I think. I think we'll succeed in this area because we ourselves doing the same. We are doing very many things in favor of our partners, economic partners. And I think we expect the same reciprocal actions will be taken by the European countries.
Early parliamentary elections in Greece will be held on January 25. This is due to the fact that during the 3 rounds of voting, the parliament failed to elect a president. The left coalition Syriza of Alexis Tsipras is the leader of the campaign. She is leading in public opinion polls and has the potential to become the largest faction in the country's parliament. The political party New Democracy, currently headed by Prime Minister Antonis Samaras, may take the 2nd place. Today we will talk about the alignment of political forces in Greece before the election.
According to the Greek electoral legislation, the party that wins the elections gets 50 more seats in the parliament. The upcoming elections in Greece are in focus not only in the EU, but also outside the Eurozone. The victory of the left could dramatically change the internal Greek policy and to provoke countries' exit from the Eurozone. Syriza acts out of interest to cancel part of its debt to the EU and the International Monetary Fund, as well as to steer away from the austerity policy. Otherwise, the left threatened to declare a default, which will inevitably lead to its exit from the Eurozone. Due to the troubled economic situation in the country back in 2012, the government had to go to the austerity measures that caused discontent among the population. Back then, the parliament's adoption of such forced measures led to the spontaneous rallies and riots in the streets of Athens. As a result, the country was marred by protests. Hundreds of stores were destroyed and dozens of buildings were burned down for the attempt to save on pensioners and students in order to repay the overseas lenders. Experts call the situation in the country a major destabilizing factor for the Eurozone. According to a published study by Economist Intelligence Unit, the formation of the new Greek government after the victory of the left can be a catalyst for instability and lead to shock in the entire European Union. Considering that dissatisfaction with the EU policy is now expressed by a number of other European countries, the upcoming elections in Greece and the events that caused them can become a point of no return for the EU in its current form.
So, Mr. Akhmetov, in your opinion, how likely is that Eurosceptics will come to power in Greece and the questions of the country's withdrawal from the European Union will rise?
First of all, we should look into the history. Since 2012, for example, austerity measures in Greece were handled very strictly, and people are sick and tired of these austerity measures. And well-being of the people fell down. And unemployment is there, and the banking system is very weak, and people especially the majority of the people suffer a lot, especially the young people because of the unemployment. According to the mass media, if you look through the mass media, you find out since 2012, 200,000 Greeks left the country because of this economic situation. And now, as you have already just mentioned, that 3 times they tried to elect the president, but it was unsuccessful. And now, tomorrow, parliament election will be held, and left radical party, Syriza, might come to the power. And European Union is very cautious, because if this party will come to the power, things might change. And Syriza demands, for example, international financial institutions to cut down the debts. It is not an easy thing. Otherwise, for example, if they don't do this, they will declare that Greek is bankrupt, default. In that case, Greek might exit European Union. And this is a very bad example, will be a very bad example for other countries like Spain and Portuguese and very many other countries, because unemployment is very high there, and also the economic situation is very low, and that's why it might bring to the collapse of the European Union. This is the main danger, I think, for the European Union. That's why Germany and other countries are trying to do their best, but I don't know what will be the solution. If this radical left-wing party comes to the power, many things will change. See? That's why now Europe is expecting what will happen.
But it seems that the European Union is ready, that Greece will quit from this integration decision.
If European Union is ready to these kind of changes, it will be the beginning. Other countries might follow Greece. In that case, European Union might collapse. You see, this is a very dangerous thing. This is what we expect.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Akhmetov. Glad to have you in our studio again and hope to see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, here is a brief preview of the events of the coming week. On Tuesday, January 27, Minsk will host a meeting of the Council of the Permanent Plenipotentiary Representatives of the State Participants of the CIS members. And on Tuesday, January 29, Italy will host the first round of presidential election. We will discuss this and other important events in our next program. Thank you for watching. Best of luck and goodbye.